Hello YouTubers, and welcome to my channel, The Virginia Bushcrafter. Hey, thank you for taking some time out of your day to come and check this video out. But today, I have a question for you. How do you sharpen your small and medium knives? Yes, how do you sharpen your small and medium knives? I'm going to share with you how I sharpen my small and medium knives. But before I do that, I really want to talk about knives again. I think it's just so important that we all have such a full understanding of the purpose of a knife in the bush. Yes, we know every bushcrafter takes a knife in the bush. But me personally, I carried that knife in the bush to use it for four main reasons: to cut wood, to prepare food, for survival tasks, and to build a fire. Those, to me, are the four reasons for having that knife: cutting wood, preparing my food, survival tasks, and building a fire. So, let me talk about a little bit about cutting wood. Now, I want my knife to be strong enough to chop through branches. Yes, I want them to chop through branches. And then I want my knife to be able to cut through smaller branches and to be able to easily make feather sticks. So we know that with there's a difference between chopping and cutting. With chopping, we know we're chopping something with making a V shape and so forth. Whereas with cutting, we're basically breaking fibers. Again, we're pushing the blade through. That is cutting. And of course, to easily make feather sticks. Now, the sharper the knife, the better it cuts and the longer it can cut. So if you keep your knife sharp, it will require touch up every now and then. So keep that in mind. Keep that knife sharp as you can. Now, a blunt or a dull knife requires more pressure to cut. That's why I don't like, that's why they say a dull knife is a dangerous knife. A sharp knife is a safe knife. Now, that dull knife that requires more pressure to cut, it makes it more likely to slip with the increased force behind it, and that can cause an injury. And to actually properly sharpen the knife, it can bite the surface more readily. So knives should be kept sharp so they can do their job without any slipperage. A sharp knife should be able to cut with as little pressure as possible. So again, a sharp knife, really guys, like I said, with very little pressure, very little pressure. So now when it comes to preparing food, the knives are usually designed for cutting or chopping vegetables, fruit, and cutting meat. So you can actually take this knife and it helps prepare your food. Cut your vegetables, cut your fruit, or cut your meat. And also, survival tasks. Here again, cutting and chopping wood, using that knife to build a shelter, and that knife has to be able to take a beating during batoning. When you go to split wood, you're giving that knife a serious beating. So that's something that's very important. Now, when it comes to building a fire, you're going to use that knife to make your tinder. Make your tinder by, you can scrape a tree trunk by using a 90-degree spine. Using this 90-degree spine, scrape a tree trunk to get enough wood off of that to make a bird nest. You can also use the inside of the blade to scrape. Something that I've done often is birch bark. Scraping the inside, that's very good to start a fire. As well as using the inside of this knife to make feather sticks. So that's just a little bit of information about a knife. So what I want to do to you, and I don't want to keep you too long, I want to show you how I sharpen my knife. Now, YouTubers, before I show you how I sharpen my knives, or my preferred way of sharpening my knife, there are many ways. I think it's important that we go over the difference between carbon steel and stainless steel. That's a large topic in the bushcrafters community. Now, carbon steel has low levels of chromium and other alloying elements added to make it stainless steel. Now, carbon steel is tougher and easier to sharpen than stainless steel, but carbon steel is great in the field. Now, carbon steel is usually coated or has a natural patina to help prevent rust. And usually carbon steel is 1095 or 1075. So for an example, this knife has a coating. This is a carbon steel knife and it has a coating or a patina. This helps prevent rust. And as you can see, well, the usage, you can see where some of the coating or patina has come off. I've used that knife a lot, whereas I've used this knife maybe twice, and the coating is very, very visible. It's still here. This is a mossy oak Overwatch, which is a very good knife. So now this is an example of a knife, a carbon steel knife that is coated or it has patina. But there are also carbon steel knives that are not coated and does not have a patina. For an example, this kukri knife is carbon steel and there is no coating or patina on it. This kukri knife is carbon steel. There's no coating, no patina. Now the thing is with carbon steel, it is subject to rust if you don't take care of it. And I'm going to talk about that later on. But I also want to show you some knives that are steel. This knife is a German surgical steel, a very hard steel. It has no coating, no patina. This knife, it would take a lot for this knife to rust. A smaller knife, this buck knife, it's all steel. It would take a long time for this knife to rust. As well as this pocket knife, all steel. It would take a while for it to rust. So again, carbon steel, it's in the field, I like it more because it's not going to, well, it's actually tougher. So let's talk a little bit about stainless steel. Now, stainless steel, it actually retains its sharpness better than some carbon steels. And again, this is somewhat rust proof, and sometimes it retains its sharpness better than some type of carbon steels, but it has a high tendency to chip instead of roll like a carbon steel blade will. So when I say that it may chip, I mean, you just may get a piece of metal that just is removed, and that's a chip. Whereas with a carbon steel, instead of chipping, the edges may just kind of roll over. So again, stainless steel retains its sharpness better than some types of carbon steel. It's somewhat rust proof. It takes more to sharpen a steel blade as opposed to a carbon steel. So that's why in the field, I like the carbon steel because it's easier to sharpen. A stainless steel, it somewhat requires more effort to sharpen. And again, stainless steel has a tendency to chip instead of a roll like a carbon steel. Now, another thing about these knives is that the more acute the blade is, it's not going to be as strong. For example, let me get a knife and just show you something. Now, again, the more acute the blade is, it becomes not as strong. Now, let's look at this knife. It's steel. This knife has an 18-degree edge. It is not going to be as strong as a knife like this that has probably, I think this knife has maybe a 30-degree angle. It's much more blunt, whereas this one is sharper. If you take a look at this convenience store-bought knife, this has a 17-degree angle, which is very sharp, but it is not as strong. So the blunter the blade angle is, the stronger the blade. So let's say this is 17 degrees. If I made this 15 degrees, it would be sharper. If I made it 10 degrees, sharper. If I made it 7 degrees, it's almost like a razor. So the lower the number, the sharper the blade is, but it becomes weaker. Well, I should say not as strong. This knife has an 18 degree angle, but this is a bushcrafter's knife, but it is still strong. Now, a knife such as this, more or less like a 30 degree, again, close to a 30 degree angle, may not be as sharp, but they're very strong. This knife, 20 degree angle. 20-degree angle. This knife, 20-degree angle. And even though they are blunter, all of them are sharp. So again, just think, if a knife is blunter, there's more steel on it, it still can be very sharp. The degree of the angle is going to be higher. A knife that has a low degree, the lower the number, the sharper the knife will be, but not as strong. So with all of this said, let's get to the purpose of this video so I can show you how I prefer to sharpen my small and medium knives. Okay guys, what I want to do is show you how I sharpen my small and medium knives. Now keep in mind there are various ways to sharpen your knife, and I think they all work well. It just depends on your preference. So I'm going to be sharpening a knife that I am going to use this weekend in place of my Scandinavian knife. I'm going to be using a Kamalis titanium, and I haven't used this knife in a while, so it doesn't need sharpening per se, but I like my knife to be as sharp as possible. So the way that I'm going to sharpen this is that I am going to use a Work Sharp sharpening tool. Now it has 3 sharpening stones, one at 320 grit, another at 800 grit, and a ceramic rod. Now you can adjust the angles. You can adjust the tool to sharpen to the angle that you want. I want this to be very sharp, so I am going to sharpen again the 18-degree angle. And I'm going to adjust it. Here is an adjustment tool here. You can adjust the angle, so I'm going to make sure that it is on an 18-degree angle. So right now it's at 20. This goes to 19. It's 20. And now it is set for an 18-degree angle. So I'm going to start off, let me put you in focus. I'm going to start off by putting the knife blade into its holder. This allows you to sharpen your knife evenly the entire blade length or cutting edge length. So it is in there firmly, and I'm going to start with the 320 grit, which is a grit that is used for removing more metal as opposed to the 800 grit. So let's do this, and let's start now. I'm going to go 10 times on each side. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay, now I'm going to turn the blade over. And I'm going to repeat the process, making sure that the blade is secure so that it can be sharpened evenly. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, now I'm going to go to a final grit, the 800 grit, and repeat that process 10 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now I'm going to turn it over, and you may have noticed that it was somewhat much quieter. That's because I was using a finer grit. So let's do the same thing with the 800 grit. Let me put the sharpener back in here. Okay, this is with the 800 grit. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now, to polish it, more or less, I'm going to use a ceramic grit. 10 times on each side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And if you notice, you didn't hear much grinding at all. Okay, let me keep you in focus. Okay, we're going to do the same thing. Make sure you're in focus here. Okay, let's do it. 1. Well, let's make sure the blade is tight. The blade is secure. And let's do this 10 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay. Remove the knife. And now, let's bring you up a little bit. I'm checking it. I feel no burrs. But what I'm going to do as an extra measure, I'm going to stand the edges up with a honing rod. And I'm going to do this just by lightly, with the weight of the honing rod, laying it onto the edge and just go from the toe to all the way to the point, from the heel to the point. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And the other side. One, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay. I feel no burrs. But now, to top it off, I am going to use a strop. And on the strop, I have rubbed it down with something that is called polishing compound green. And this is what it looks like. But I have already put this on the strop. So now I'm just going to strop the blade. Okay, now this method is going to be from the heel all the way to the point. Just pulling back, starting on the rough side and lifting when you get to the tip. Okay, that was 5 times. Now let's go to the finer side. We're going to do the same thing. This will remove any burrs that are on here. I didn't feel any, but this will be extra sharp. Okay, so now let's see how well it actually cuts. I'm going to wipe the blade off. I'm going to take a piece of let me put you in focus. That's very sharp. And that's just holding the knife with my thumb and forefinger. No pressure or very little pressure. That is sharp. Again, a thumb and my finger. So the knife is sharp. It is very sharp. Okay, so now, again, we want to keep our knives as sharp as possible. The sharper your knife, the less pressure you have to put on the blade to cut your food or anything. So let's try this on a tomato. Again, we know that a sharper knife requires less pressure, whereas a dull knife requires more pressure. Very, very smooth. Now, again, with a dull knife, it requires a lot of pressure. So let's just see how it works with a dull knife. Guys, as you can see with a dull knife, you're basically just smashing the tomato. So, I just wanted to show you how I sharpen my knives, my medium and small knives. My larger knives are done in a totally different method. Now, whenever I come in from the bush, I wash my knives in liquid detergent soap. I dry them off. I hone the edges and I strop the knife again, and then I use a light oil just to prevent any type of rust. And the final step, it goes back into the sheet. So guys, that's just a quick demonstration again of how I sharpen my small and medium knives. But I do have other methods when I'm out in the field or in the bush that if need be, I can sharpen them. Again, there are many ways. So guys, I thank you for taking some time out to watch this video. I hope it was helpful to you. And I would just like to say again, father and son, mother and daughter, human in nature. Get out in the bush and have some fun. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. This is the Virginia Bushcrafter. Thank you, and I appreciate your support.